that we use to close our course for this year. They have the so-called Lecciones Aprendidas. They have the awards for the TFM and TFG. TFM is a project, a final degree project, in which they have worked with ceramic pieces, with bricks, etc. And they evaluate the quality of the project and the use of these systems and so on. And TFG is more focused on papers, research works regarding ceramics systems and so on. And the competition that you perfectly know. First, the competition. This year, as you know, the competition is about a library in Zamora. You have been studying the city of Zamora, the history, how the city grew, and the different parts of the city, mainly the park in which is thought to be designed the library, and is for students. It's in some schools of architecture, it's even open to alumni, you say in English alumni, but here in UIC it's only for the students of the degree. Okay, so you are not going to compete if you use your project of Design Studio 4 to compete in the competition. You are not going to compete against graduate students from UIC, at least in the local phase, which is only for students from UIC. But then in the national phase, I have to advise you that there are going to be students that have finished their degree, but they can, for the first 2 years after graduating, they can still compete in this competition. And I've said there is a local award and then the national award. The 3 best candidates of each school compete in the national competition. And the first one has a grant, I don't remember, 500 euros or 300 euros. And the other 2 I mentioned. And as you know, because some of you participated last year, all of you, all the participants are invited to participate in the ceremony of the awards at the end. It's around November, was it? Okay. And all the information is in the webpage. Here you have the schools that participate in this competition. And you see in the last column, those that organize the competition open to alumni or not. Okay, you have the limit to apply. I'll try to. Yeah, the economic price is 300 euros for the best project of each school. 2 mentions without money, but with this distinction to participate in the national award. And yeah, the date of this first phase will appear in the webpage, and then the national competition, in which the first prize is 3,000 euros, and 2 mentions with 1,000 euros each one. And the jury will say the winners on the 19th of July the 19th. And the jury, the local jury. So Victor, the director of the school, is member of the jury. The coordinator, so myself, I will be member of the jury. Another professor or architect, maybe it's not a professor, or maybe an architect, that is not involved in the course. So Ricardo and Ernest, they are not going to be members of the jury in order to look for different points of view. You can say, oh, the professor never understood my project, but other people, Victor has not been, is not professor of this subject. This other member of the jury is not going to be professor of the subject. And Enrique Sanz, who is an architect, who coordinates this forum from Madrid and publishes the journal in which appears everything published. He is member of the jury. So don't worry if you think that the professors has not discovered the quality of your proposal. You can even win the local phase with your project. And the jury of the national competition with José Ignacio Lina Fasoro, a great full professor in design studio in the School of Architecture of Madrid. José Antonio Martínez La Peña is a Catalan architect. He's a well-recognized architect, very famous. Tomás Carranza Macías is a member of the Colegio de Arquitectos de Cádiz, like the COAC, but in Cádiz. Carlos Miguel Iglesias is professor in CEU San Pablo in Madrid. Enrique Sanz is member of the local jury and member of the national competition jury, okay, who is the coordinator of this forum. A good architect. And Pedro Rognoni, who is a member of the institution, this institution of producers, businessmen that produce ceramic pieces, bricks, and so on. You are not doing TFM, but I'm going to explain the TFM awards. The TFM is for a final degree project that has implemented ceramic systems in facade, in the cover, and so on in his project. But the project is not only because of the use of these pieces, but because of the quality of the project. And you are in touch with your mates of the 5th year, and you can explain to them. And the TFG in our school, we don't divide between the grade and the master's degree, but in other schools they have a final project after the grade in architecture, and then another final project at the end of the master's. Our end of degree project is similar to the master's, to a TFM, and a TFG in Spain usually is a more theoretical work, but maybe you can use texto de investigación, means research text, and I don't know if you have a text, a research text from another subject, for example, with Vicente Sarrablo in a subject related with ceramics and so on, you can apply with your text for this competition. You have all the information at the web page. Of course, the description, you can apply, of course, for free, and the limit is the 15th of September. And the award is 1,000 euros for the best project and of degree project, and 500 euros for the best text, the research text. And the members of the jury, as you see, Enrique Sanz and Pedro Rognoni, the architect in charge of this forum, and the businessman, the president of Hispalyt, of course, they are both in the projects and this kind of, and 2 architects from the office, La Puerta Campo Arquitectos, and Primitivo González, which is another architect. Lecciones Aprendidas is these examples of good works made with brick that I think you have seen the videos and they appear in the web page. Do you remember? Today's conference is going to be this one exactly. In this case, it's a housing building. You're going to speak about mainly housing buildings. This, Vicente Serrano is professor in our school, Guarderia Kindergarten. Is a project by Vicente, but as well by Jordi Rubiras and Cristina Castelao. And this project by Cordon and Lignan, MOOC Arquitectura, Mar Loren Mendez. Okay, conferences, and new information about ceramic systems. I think you have paid a look to some of this information that appear in the web page, technology, systems, and so on. Industrialize, other kind of systems. And apart from this information, we can visit factories. This year, we haven't organized any trip to visit a factory, but we were looking for the possibility of visiting a factory. We were thinking about going to one which is in La Franja, which is the limit between Aragon and Catalonia. But the course was so intense during these 10 weeks that has been impossible. But other year, maybe we can organize this visit. And I think it's interesting because you have done in other subjects, visit factories, and always you learn a lot in the process, in the construction process of the pieces. Okay, and of course they spread this information through their webpage, through the journal, they publish books, etc. Okay, at the end of the conference, we're gonna examine our professor now. I will give you a quiz to give your opinion about Foro Hispalyt, about the quality of the. I have filled with a higher rank because I'm sure that the conference. I'm very proud to have Jose Manuel with us. So yeah, and then I'm gonna introduce Jose Manuel. I'm gonna share his conference.
View, me lo tengo que tener.
Okay.
Sí.
I'm gonna give him the well.
Perdón, Íñigo y José, es que yo no estoy viendo aquí la presentación de José.
Sí.
Ah, sí. Tienes que compartir la presentación.
Bueno, ya.
Hay que cerrar la otra. Ahora sí, muchas gracias.
I have taken this book from the office of our director about the work of José Manuel Toral and Marta Peris. They are well known as Peris y Toral. It's a Barcelona-based firm of architecture. They specialize in housing projects, even though you do even urban design, other kind of buildings, or public buildings as well. But they are super well famous, well known for designing and winning a lot of competitions in housing projects. And they are José Manuel with Rafael Model. Yep. And then you let the office and join with Marta Peris, and you open your office here in Barcelona. And from then on, they have won a lot of competitions. They are referenced in the Office of Architecture here in Barcelona. And Marta is professor at the UIC, as well. Yes. All of them are professors there in the School of Architecture in Barcelona. And he's gonna show us today, I think, of course, in the context of Foro Hispalyt, maybe one project.
No. So for
many projects.
Some of the projects that has been around the ceramic issue. So
okay,
so there will be like 4 or 5.
Okay, so how to use ceramic systems to produce high quality architecture. Okay, so the use of the material is not a limitation So, and even the budget, because you do great buildings with low budgets, is something that I appreciate a lot.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna shut up and then I'm gonna pass the microphone to the server.
Yeah. Okay. Si no, si no lo tengo aquí.
No te llegará el cable. Yo voy pasando.
Just I made a mistake because they already told me it has to be in English, but I didn't get ready to do it in English. So some of the slides will be in Spanish, but I didn't translate. Okay. Okay. The first thing I want to talk about is like this conceptual approach that we have in the office. It's like we think that today, in order to be sustainable, you have to be environmentally sustainable, socially sustainable, and economically sustainable. No? But not all the environmental decisions are viable in the economic point of view. So only a few of them. So it's not all the environmental decisions are the proper ones. So there are like these are the ones that are viable. But not all the economic decisions are equitable from a social point of view. And not all the social decisions are bearable in the environmental way. So only when something is viable, equitable, and bearable, we can talk about this idea of sustainability. So in the office, we just by knowing this, we are mainly using 3 strategies, but each one of the strategies is not focused on each one of these issues, so it's like in the middle of 2 of them. So when we want to be environmental and social at the same time, our strategy has to do with the intermediate spaces. So creating intermediate spaces that in some way they are going to have a very important behavior in the environmental point of view, but at the same time, they have to be a place for the relation, for social relation of the community. So that's why we talk about atriums, we talk about patios, and these kinds of places, they will be always in the common areas of the buildings, okay? Another strategy that we use a lot is this idea of reducing. So every time we want to be environmental and economic at the same time, we use this strategy because when you reduce, it's cheaper because you're using less amount of material, but at the same time, it's more efficient. So your contamination is the CO2 emissions are getting lower. So every time we try to reduce our solutions, try to simplify all the layers, reduce the amount of layers. So just in order to be more economic, but at the same time to be more environmental. And finally, when we want to be economic and social, the strategy we use is the idea of sharing. Because every time there's this idea of the collaborative economies, that every time you share, you only pay 1 unit, but the rest of the units can take advantage of it. So it's more economic, but at the same time, you're generating a place, a social place for the community at the same time. So these are something that you will see through our projects, like these 3 strategies. Okay? I will begin with this project. This is, in this case, we are using bricks, but in this case, they don't have touch. So it's like grammar blocks. Okay. This is a project in Ibiza. Just to understand where we are, this is Playa de Bosa, Dalvila, the city of Ibiza is around there. This is a place full of hotels, so all these big buildings that we have in the seafront are hotels. They are very close to the airport, so This is why, you know, they have lots of noises for the decor, and many of them has been reconverted in discotheques. You know, Ushuaia is one of them, and so we have like these large scale kind of buildings, but at the same time, we have present here. At the same time, we have like these low rise, these similar houses in the back side of the city. No? So we are in some way between these two different kinds of fabrics of city urban fabric. No? So we try to combine them, you know, so we will try to do a big piece scale with a big, a piece with a big scale, but done with the scale of the small houses. And in order to be able, so when you see here, it's like we take all these houses, we put them all together in order to have a big view. At the same time, we are trying to face to south all the houses, so all the houses are facing to south, and we are taking advantage of the wind, because we have here what we call the bat, that is the wind that is coming from the sea to the interior. So to take advantage for part of the environmental behavior of the building. So this is an image that tries to show this idea of generating a big scale building with the scale of the small singular houses. But the important thing here is that in this case we were trying to do a building that doesn't need any active system. That means that in order to get this, but we don't want to do the system, but we want to get this comfort. So in order to get comfort, we try to analyze which are the parameters that generate this idea of the comfort. So, you know, everybody understands that temperature is part of the comfort, but it's not the only one. Humidity, the movement of the air, the radiation of the materials, and, you know, the user, through its metabolism, they can change this idea of comfort. And we like to show this is the Carrier's Psychomechanics abacus. That means that this is like Carrier invented this diagram, but he not only invented this, he also at the same time invented the air conditioning. And he always told us that every time we are outside this green area, we have to put on his machine. But what we want is not to use his machine. We have to analyze how this is working in order to understand how can we live with this idea of the comfort in order to achieve this idea of the comfort. So each one of these parameters, we try to translate each one of them into an architectural element. So when we are dealing with temperature, we can talk about atriums or winter gardens. When we want to talk about the movement of the air, we can talk about the solar chimneys, the cross ventilation. We're talking about humidity. We can talk about the materials with heat hygroscopicity, the ability of materials to regulate humidity in space. When we're talking about inertia, we talk again about the materials, intensity, conductivity, but finally, with the user, understanding that the behavior of the user will be like the clue, no, for this idea of the comfort process. So the real site, even though we have this site we talked at the beginning, but the real site is the climatic chart. So we can understand, we can imagine this is like the mean temperatures during the year. So it's a bit, it's not too cold, but we go down to 10 degrees in the winter, and then we go really normally mean temperatures of 25 to 26 degrees in the summer. No? But one of the data that is very strange is this one, because here we have each color. This is the Código Técnico, this is our registration, and this is the airport. This is another database, real data And the Código Técnico doesn't understand that we have a very high humidity during all the year, mainly in summer, even nearly over the 80%. And this is something that is going to be very important. So we are going to take the real data, not the one of the regulated, the
Código técnico. They understand código técnico.
okay. So we have to understand that the ideal humidity has to be between the 60 and the 60%, 50 and 60%. If it's too dry, our defenses get dry, so we don't have defenses, and it's too humid, the bacteria increases. So even though we have this situation that we have this humidity through nearly through the 80%, we have to reach this situation. This is why one of the first decisions in this project was to analyze which will be the material in order to build the building. So we had some comparison of here we have the inertia and here we have the hygroscopicity. So we have here the earth, the wood, brick, and concrete. So understanding the inertia, the best one, the material that is working better for inertia, it's the concrete, because it has a very high density, 2,300 kilos. But the next one is the earth, that we're talking about 2,000 kilos of density and then a very good conductivity. Then it goes the brick, that is very 180, but if it has some holes, it goes down to here. And finally, the wood, it's too light in order to have this idea of the inertia. But if we analyze the capacity of regulating the humidity, this changes upside down. So concrete is not working at all. Also the same with the brick, because even though the brick has clay, when we cook it, we close the pores and you cannot make this absorption of the water, this moisture absorption. And then the wood is working very well for regulating, but the fact is that earth is like the double rather than 2.5 times. So that's why we took the decision of building with bricks. Okay, next. In this case, we decided to use these kinds of bricks because to build with earth, we have like 3 main systems. We will have the ram earth that they were used by the Chinese. We can also have the adobe that they were used by the Egyptians. They get dry with the straw. They put the clay with the straw, and then this is so the other 2 elements they have more than 3,000 years. But this is a system that it was invented in the 1950s in Colombia, that just through the compression and when some stabilization with lime. So we have the clay, we have the lime, and then we have the gravel and the sand. We can make this kind of bricks that they have like 2 or 3 times more resistance than the other 2 systems, like the adobe or the brown earth. And then we can build only 20 centimeters wall for 5 stories of earth. Well, the project, this is like conceptually we began the project very similar as what we did in Cornellà, with this idea of the equal system room. So the unit of aggregation of the project will be the room instead of the house, of the dwelling. So we define this room that is measuring 3 by 4, so it's 12 square meters, and we make all the spaces equal, because when things are equal, that means that there is no hierarchy in a house. So for us, this is very important, because we think in the 21st century, it doesn't make sense to have a bigger room for the panels than for the sun. So we think we have to be more democratical, and if the spaces are equal, they're more easily interchangeable. So we define this idea of the matrix of equal rooms. And in this case, they are measuring these 12 square meters, 3 by 4. And by this, we do this aggregation where we, every time we go up, we are losing some of these rooms in order, for some regulations, because every time we go up, we have to do some step backs in order to answer to the planning regulations. But at the same time, we are defining more vertex, and every time you get a vertex, there is a vortex, and it generates more movement of the air. And also here you can see these patios that are covered with some materials that we have a very important behavior in the building. So this moment we define it like 3 cores, and this matrix of equal rooms, in this case, they have like this situation, and we are entering up to 4 dwellings per plan, and then we are losing, sometimes they go down to 3, and at the upper floor we only have 2 dwellings. So this is like this changing plan. Every plan is different, but always ensuring that all of the dwellings will have this cross ventilation. Okay. And here we can see this the block with the walls, no? How we build this labyrinth, no, of walls, of the structural walls. So all the earth is working in a structural point of view. And here we can see like this pattern of the structural walls with these 20 centimeters. And here we can understand this is the unit of aggregation. We have like, this is the room where we enter, we are here. So here we have a lattice, so give some intimacy to the dwellings that we have in the other side, but at the same time allowing the air to move through it. And then in this case, we're entering to 3 dwellings per plan. In this point, every time we relate with the exterior, we are using these intermediate spaces. So they are working as winter gardens where they're facing to south, or we're working as thermal buffers when they are facing to north. So like this is one of the houses that has this cross ventilation. Another one is cross ventilation. This one is working with the relation with the pattern. And this is one of the units when we get in, when we enter. This is interesting because this is the first room. Is like the room for this idea of the water, the washing area. So we have the bathroom, we have here the laundry, and then we place like the bathroom as a furniture. So it's like a piece of furniture inside the room. That's why it doesn't. This piece is not getting to the ceiling. It's like first furniture. And then we have this double circulation through the bedroom. So it's a view from here. So we have this connection. So each one of the rooms has 2 doors. So we can take care, from parents can take care directly to the sons. And then we have this possibility, or sometimes we can have the parents here, and then the sons can have this connection between their rooms. For us, this is important to have this potential of moving in different ways through the house. This is another point of view. This is the living area. This big opening through the kitchen, and having like this diagonal connection through the spaces, and having like this. These rooms with no corridor, you're all the time moving from a room to another. And now here we have like this winter garden relation. Next, another typology. In this case, with the patio, we have the entering the light from the patio. Some diagonals, this idea when you're working with these building walls, it's not only the direction of the walls, every time you look through the walls, this relation is very interesting. Here we have a ground floor meter garden with garden on site. Another one of the ground floor. Next. And this here we will talk about this area of reducing we were talking at the beginning. And in this case, you know, every time we are working with bearing walls, we try to be able to solve acoustics just with one layer, because as this is an structural element, we have to solve this idea of the bearing walls with more layers. It will be very expensive. So in order to do that, we try to have enough density of the wall to use the law of mass. The law of mass is telling us that in order to solve this only with one material, the density by square meter should be 300 kilos per square meter. So we have this density of 2,000 kilos by cubic meter, and only with 20 centimeters of the bricks, you will have 400 kilos. So we can solve it only with one line. For us, this is very important. And then the rest of the walls, we are using only 10 centimeters. So try just to adjust the measurements just to the minimum requirements you need. And at the same time, this is the thickness that is good for all the bearing loads that we have in the building. And then when we try to solve the slab, now here is a very interesting story, because when we did the competition, we were coming from building the project of Cornellà, and we thought it was a good idea trying to solve the slabs with timber. But you know, when we did all the simulations of how to work, how to make work the building with no systems, the core consultant told us that we should increase inertia. And we took the decision of changing the slab into concrete, because remember, concrete was the one that was working better for the inertia. So we took that decision. It was not an easy decision, because we were thinking, okay, maybe then the emission would be higher. So the idea was, okay, let's think how can we use concrete in a more clever way that is not, it doesn't have that much emissions. So in this case, we took the strategy of giving geometry, because you know every time you give geometry, you are able to use this amount of material. So we use precast beams of 10 by 20 centimeters, each 80 centimeters, all joined together with a 5 centimeter compression line. So that's, you know, we have 25 centimeters of thickness, of a structural thickness, but equivalent amount of concrete of 10 centimeters. So the nice thing is that we have a reduction of a 66% in the amount of concrete. So we are only using 1/3 of the concrete that we need for these 25 centimeters structural concrete. But then what happened is that now, even though we're building with concrete, this is very light in order to use the law of mass. So we have to change the strategy that we normally use for the slabs, for acoustics, and then go to a mass spring mass situation. So we have this space mass, then we put the road wool in order to do a spring, and then the next mass will be the floating 6 centimeters layer of floating layer, and instead of adding then a pavement, we decided just to polish it in order to give the finish. So again, this idea of reducing, so if we don't do the pavement, then we will be more economic, but at the same time, it will be more environmental. Next. And here we can see how we build it. So in this case, we have these precast beams, and then just to pour the concrete, and then the concrete joins everything together, and we make some compensation at the moment. And then as we wanted to use the concrete for the inertia, the nice thing is that now we have more surface for interchange, 1.5 points more. So that means that it's working like a radiator in the outside the ground, you know, because we can interchange and have more dissipation of the energy through the slab. Next. Then we isolate on the building. We try to isolate it with the more sustainable materials we found. In this case, we're using cork, 10 centimeters of cork, ATICs, you know, external with no thermal breaches. Next, and then here is we can see all the building with the cork. Next, and then we plaster it with lime. Next, then we have like this image of the building. This is more Ibiza's way of looking at buildings. Next. And for doing the coverings, again, this idea of the isolations. In this case, we use Posidonia with a local resource. So there's like a Posidonia, the sea plant that it dives into the beach in the Ibiza. They have lots of them. So we took some of the Posidonia, we dry it in the plot, and then we use it with this density of 300 kilos by cubic meter in order to have. But here again, instead of doing the slopes with concrete, in this idea of reducing, try to not use concrete. We do the slopes with the timber, and then we place. So we have more insulation when we have more slope, and then also we cover it with an OSB, and then we do the EPDM
waterproof.
The waterproof layer, and then we cover it all with recycled glass. Okay. And then sometimes in the interior we have to do some isolations, and instead of using plasterboard, we use clay boards. You know, here, so we have these stacks, yeah, montantes. No? Yeah. I think it's timber stud, and then we put these boards of plaster, and then we plaster everything with clay with the strobe basalt. We can see here part of the strobe. So because clay is working also very well with this idea of making the regulation of humidity, you know, with this hygroscopy. Next. And finally, this is like the idea is making a reduction of the CO2. So instead of 1,000 kilos by square meter, we go down to 420. We have a 60% of reduction, even though we're using concrete for the slabs. Next. Next. Okay, and then for the way, you know, the way this idea of the comfort with no systems, we will talk about these atriums and these winter gardens. We have here, you can see here the atrium. Here, like these glass curtains that we use to transform the terraces into winter gardens. So all the patio is covered in order to transform this patio to an atrium. But it's not only the space of the patio, it's bigger in order to increase the amount of surface that we can capture the energy, but at the same time, in order to generate this space that is the social space, you know, to transform this area that is in the common area into a potential social space for the community. And the building in winter is working this way, you know, we capture all the energy through the atrium, through the winter gardens. We have a lot of inertia, so you know, all this capture, we keep it for a long time, and as we have isolated very well the building, we don't lose this energy. Okay, Pastor? Here we see again the winter gardens, the thermal buffers, and the atriums. And this is what's happened with the temperature in the patio. Outside we have 15 degrees. This is winter, and go up to 23 degrees. We have this increase of temperature, but here we have some problems that we are not comfortable because we have this degradation of the temperature next. And that's why we add a fan in the middle of the patio in order to make this mixture of the temperature. So we have this increase from 15 degrees to 21 degrees, 6 degrees more equivalent in all the space. And here we can understand this is the outside temperature. So we go down, this is the night, down to 9, up to 15, 16, down to 7, and of course day, night. This is the outside temperature, but inside we have a constant line in 21 degrees, but with no active system. You know, but the thing you have to understand that if we only had inertia, the line will be constant, but in the mean line of the outside temperature. But as we can increase temperature because we capture the energy, we can move up this line, these 6 degrees that we were talking before. Next. And in summer, here we transform the atrium into a solar chimney. And in order to do this, what we do is we place a solar protection in the interior part, and it's not normally we will try to do a solar protection with a very clear color, but in this case we wanted to heat, so we want to increase the temperature here in order, because when we have hot air, the hot air goes up, and we have open here and here, and that generates some movement. So even though outside we don't have movement of the air, we are generating this difference of temperatures that will allow us to make some movement of the air. So in this case, the strategy will not be with temperature, will be with the movement of the air. And also at the same time, the inertia will help us a lot, and at the same time, this hygroscopicity of the materials will regulate the humidity. So all the strategies will allow for summer, will always allow to work along with lattices, because this allows us to do this movement of the air. And here we can understand, here's the analysis of the temperature. I told you that the solution will not be the temperature, because this is the outside temperature. So we're going down to 23, 24, up to 30, 34. And we see this is the line, but it's not totally straight. So that means that even though we have increased the inertia, it was not enough. We should increase it more to have a constant line. It's not as what happened in the winter, but in this case, we will have like this oscillating temperature from 26 to 27 degrees. Next, so what I told you, the clue will not be the temperature, so there are more comfort parameters. So let's take a look of, in this case, the movement of the air. All of the houses will have this cross ventilation, you know. We will have this solar chimney facade. This cross ventilation will talk from facade to facade, facade, facade. And this is how the winter garden, the solar chimney will work. So we will place strategically some openings. So there's one date of the year that the building changes from the summer situation to the winter situation. And this is what's happened. We are able to generate 2.1 meters per second of movement of the air. You have to understand that it's half meter per second. It's 1 degree of thermal feeling. That means that the thermometer doesn't change the value, but your feeling is like 1 degree less. In this case, we have 4 degrees less of thermal feeling. And now here we can understand this protection, this transformation of the atom, the solar chimney with the solar protection. The dark solar protection as to heat it more faster. And just to finish, just to understand, you know, all the parameters, you know, with a temperature of 29 degrees, remember that in the interior we will have 27, so this is like the worst day of the year, okay? Just trying to analyze if the worst day will work, all of the rest of the day will work. So this day will have 29 degrees with a movement of the air 1.5. Remember that the solar chimney was able to give us 2.1 meters per second with humidity of the 56% and the proper clothing level. We are able to move the green area. So if we go back to the carriers abacus psychometricus, what we are doing is not to move your situation to here, so you're moving the green area into your place. The next project is this project in Bon Pastor, here in Barcelona. It's very close to Rio Besós. And here, you know, it's a relocation. We have these all houses, singular houses that they are relocating them into these buildings. We are not very comfortable with this situation because maybe it was very interesting the way they were used to live, but you know, the city, they decided to do this, and then we did a competition in here, and then we tried to solve it the best way we understood it could be. And to understand this project, the presence of the river and the presence, this relation between the sea, the river, and the mountains will be very important. So we have to understand that the river actually is a corridor of air, because we have all the inertia of here, we have higher temperatures here during the winter. Well, during the day, from day to night, it changes a lot. So it's cooler from here and hotter there during the day, and night it changes the way around. So during the day, the air goes up to the mountains, and during the night, it goes down to the sea. And this is a corridor of air. So for this, we can take advantage of being in this situation. So we have to understand that this is moving this way, and it generates the Venturi effect. So if we make some openings here, we will have like this aspiration of the air. Okay, that's why all the facade of the building, we decided to use this lattice of bricks. And the nice thing is that next to our plot, there is this building, this Boigas, MBM building. It's very close to, and he also, I think he also knew that it was very important to have these lattices when you are beside the river. And in this case, he's using them to give privacy and to solve the corridor for the entrances. But you see, this is the old houses. Now we are placing somewhere here, and this is the building. But you know, this is like this is what we are. You know, this aggregate. They were the old houses were very small ones, and people used to live outside. You know, for us, it was a very interesting situation. You know, where the life is going outside of the house. But from the neighbors, they have decided that they wanted to go to live in an aggregation of 2 dwellings per plan, and with not too many common spaces. I think if they were doing corridors, it would be more. We could replicate more the way they used to be. They used to live. But that's why when we developed the project, we tried to increase the amount of intermediate spaces, just to generate like this relation of between the inside and the outside that they used to live when they were in these small houses. And here we can see our lattice in relation with the Boigas lattice. Okay, well, one of the first decisions in this case was like, we knew that the facade to the river will be on lattice, and we will place all the day zone, and then the night zone will have this is the street, and we will have this difficulty of placing there 54 dwellings. That means that we needed 150 openings into this facade. And we were very worried because this is 80 meters with 150 windows, it will not suit, and that's why we thought that maybe a good idea was to use intermediate spaces to unify part of this window. So every window, every opening will have 3 windows, will be placed in the middle. So we can, so this is the situation, sometimes we move it and then another one appears. We are able to change a 150 opening facade into a 50 for opening facade. That for us it was very important because now we think we have more the proportion of the situation. And also, again, we think in our climate it's better to relate with intermediate spaces to the outside. And also at the same time, in the ground floor, we can build it thicker. So the building has 15 meters, and the ground floor we have 20. Then we can do these terraces, and so the houses that are on the ground floor will have some terraces here, and at the same time we can see here we see these lattices, and these lattices is part of the movement of the air of the parking. That is something very important in this project. Here, this is this idea of unifying the openings, and also the vegetation that is able to climb through this lattice. And here, we're using this space. We have here the entrances, so we have like these 5 meters, so we put a slope, and we are able to put higher 50 centimeters, 60 centimeters the ground floor, so we gain some privacy, mainly from here, and the windows that are facing to the back. So, and also in this case, we made a design of the lattice in order that it cannot be climbed, because you cannot put this is less than 4 centimeters. You cannot put your feet, so you cannot climb it. So we made like this design just to solve this ground floor, and this is this idea of using this first intermediate space in order to use it as a slope and give some privacy to the ground floor situation. This is the entry. These are the drawings in the ground floor. They have this relation with these patios. They have these openings. The opening totally, the windows they get into the wall. And then you have this total relation between the interior and the patio. Next. This is the situation, and also here we have the ventilation of the patio. Next. And this idea of having all the facade with the lattice, making all the common spaces more, with this idea of making some exteriorization of the spaces. They look like some exterior spaces. You feel the breeze. Something that is also important for us. Next. Here we have the stair. Next. And we get to this plan that is totally thought through this idea of the movement of the air. So the first one, we will place the bathroom as a core, so we can again have this double circulation. This is something that we use a lot because it's not the same. You move from one direction to another. There's some privacy even inside the house, and it is very important, to understand, how is the movement of the air through all the plant and not blocking the air when you're placing. And the interesting thing here is that the first, the competitive. Normally, when you do this kind of plans, you will never place the stair in this direction because you have more facade. So you normally place the stair the other way around in order to take less amount of facade. But here we did this in order to put down the lift and being able to put the second bathroom behind the lift, and because the other way would have been here, and it would have blocked this movement out there. So, like taking less facade to the living room, we're able to make a deeper plan and having the living room instead of here, putting it back here, and allowing us to have a deeper house. That is something that is important for us. Next. So here we are in the living room and we have like this deepness, and now this situation with all these lattices, this is a 10 square meters terrace that is quite big for social housing. And now to understand the way we build it, this is the back part of the Boygas building, and here we will have this. This is the rest of the buildings, and we are very interested because we wanted to relate with some part of the value of the neighborhood, but you know, as the neighborhood was going to be totally transformed, we thought we have to get some relation to these buildings of the neighborhood. And in this case, we were interested of this idea of the constructive aesthetics. So in this case, they understand they are very walls, and the easier way to put the facade is over the slab because it's much cheaper. And also when we are making the holes, we put the brick in the other way around, and we are able to be more resistant to the facade. And all the decisions we have here, and also we don't have a lintel because it's the slab directly. And all the decisions that they took here are the more economic and the more and give the aesthetic. So we wanted to do the same, but with the requirements that we have from the Código Técnico. So in some way we understood that the cheaper way was to place the brick over the slab, but now we cannot have thermal breaches. So that's why we made a design of a prefabricated piece. This is a precast piece with the isolation, with the structural wires, and this piece is something that we place before putting the concrete. So this is the connection between this piece will be in situ. We will be with the concrete, so we will not need to put very expensive elements to join it. So we just use this for the formwork before, and then we pour the concrete. And then over this, we will place all our facade. In this situation of the 25 centimeters, you know, the vertical situation, in order to solve the lattice, and you know, in this case, we asked it to do a thicker brick. So normally a brick is 5 centimeters, this is 10 centimeters. They only take one of the wires out because the way they made it is they made it like this, and then they cut it with some wires. So they just had to cut it thicker, and then this allows us to change the way we did the facade. And you know, and again, this idea of the aesthetic, showing the aesthetics with the construction. So when you go to the corner, you're able to understand what's happening. You know, that's all. So this is like here we understand this idea of the corner, and this idea of having these bricks. So these are the three kinds of bricks we use. So in this case, this is the lattice on the ground floor, the lattice the upper floors, and this is the double brick in order to use to place it like this. And then again, to show this is a very interesting thing, because normally when you do a facade, you know, the facade is the one that is holding the openings. But in this case, as we wanted to be able to see the lattice with no structural elements in each one of the sides, so we wanted to be able to see the lattice with no elements. We did the structural elements that hold the lattice are these frames that we will place at the beginning. So in this case, the windows are the ones that are holding the facade. And then, each one of the windows will have this armor in each one of the layers to hold it totally. And then also this continuity that we were talking with Dr. Michael. Here we can see, how we place this concrete piece before putting the concrete. These are the pieces. And here, as I told you, the first thing we did is placing the windows that are the ones that will hold the facade. So it's a bit the other way around, that these are the elements where each one of the layering we have this connection, so we can give rigidity to the facade. And when we change to the other facade, the one of the lattice, in this case the frames are also some balconies. These are another precast prefabricated element, or that instead of to do a balcony, you increase the slab. In this case, this is the line of the facade, and all of this element is a structural element that is working as a structural piece. And as we have more deformation here, we have to place some tensors in this element in order to make it a very, very light element, because they have this 10 square meters terrace, and this is the space for the plants. So we want this to be full of plants, and the water can go to it. So this is like this element, that all of it is a structural element. So it's not the slab that it's floating, and it also holds. This is like the element that we did. We designed this element in order that the rest of the elements were directly the system. So here we have the connections with the bricks. Here we have the connection for the solar protection, and also to do the las guías, the guiding for the elements also comes with the handrail. So just to place, this is done outside in taller, no? And then they place it to here. Next. And this is when we finish with the solar protection and all the lattices. This is what I was telling you. When you see the lattice from each one of the sizes, you don't see the structural elements that are holding it. From the outside, as here we see, this is the tensor that holds us these balconies. And again, this is important for us, that we wanted it to be very transparent, this facade, this lattice facade. And we wanted to, we understood that there had to be some light entering in the upper floor. Next. Well, here we can see this transparency with no structural elements present. Construction site. Next. And then we decided these precast elements covering this upper floor in order to give some transparency to the building. Next. This situation here. Next. That allows us to give a bigger scale, to the facade. Next. Here in this case, the solar protection goes to the interior part. Next. And this is like this classical, to finish the building with more scale. It's a very classical strategy. Okay, and here we can understand the section. Here we decided to not to change the stair. Normally it's in here, but to go to the ceiling, we change the stair. We do a new stair that it's not working. It's working as a patio, so it enters light into the common areas and allow us not to go upper, so the chimneys can be very low, and then allow us to see all the surroundings. And also when we see the ground floor, the basement we understand this is a basement that it allows the air to enter. Next. So when we go down to the basement, that's it. Here we have this situation that we are entering light and air, so we don't need to do a mechanical renovation of the air, but it's just a natural way of doing it. But the important thing is that even though we did this is the plan of the parking, so we have 54 units, but even though we did this because the regulation told us to do it, we think this will not last too long because in fact, in the future, we will not need parkings or cars will not park under our buildings because the way of the mobility in the cities is changing, but also, we're very close to have the automatic car that it doesn't need the driver, and this automatic car will never park under our buildings. We'll go around the city, we will call it with an app, and now we're making some spaces that maybe will last 100 years, that is the estimated last of a building that we build now, that maybe in 10, 20 years will make no sense doing these kind of spaces. Next. That's why this is the real plan we were thinking of. So you can enter through the ramp with the bike, then park your bike here, and then here we can have some ateliers, some spaces that at the end will have a patio, and we can give some resilience to these spaces. So understanding that even though they give us a program, maybe in the future this program has to change, so we have to think of the flexibility of the spaces. Next. And this is another building. In this case, this is in Barcelona, next to La Mina. And here we was a competition. We won the competition. We're not sure if it's a tower that becomes a block or a block that becomes a tower. But then we thought, okay, here the sun is coming through here. This facade will be important. If we understand this is a block, then our system won't look to this facade. So we will begin the competition from the tower. Next. Well, here we can understand, here we use the brick. The decision of using brick here has a lot to do with the materiality, the inertia of the brick that can give us to the atrium. So we begin with this plan, how to solve the double ventilation using this corner situation with this spastica, placing the double stair, the double lift, the special one when you're doing a tower. So here we solve all the problems of the tower. Next. Then here, what we did when we get to the block, these three are equal as the ones of the tower. Then we copy these three ones in the back of the block, and then we design this special topology that will allow us to generate some empty space that allow us to have this cross ventilation and to give some vacuum, some empty space in the middle of the block. Next. So this is the important part. Sometimes we design the solid parts to give shape to the empty parts. And here we have in this, this is only 17 meters block. We will never expect in this deepness find this kind of a space, but we'll have an atrium that will work very similar to what we talk in Ibiza. So the air will enter from north and go down to here. So this is a summer situation, winter situation. These are all the simulation of the movement of the air. The more radiation we will have into this facade, and then all the potential of mixed-use spaces. So we will have, the patio in the rooftop. The moment when we are changing from the tower to the block, we will have the terrace that can be social space. All the atrium will be a social space, the entrance. And then in the ground floor here, we have the sport changing rooms. So there is a sport pavilion, a sport court outside the building that they will use the ground floor or ground floor to do the changing rooms, and also a parking that will have some natural ventilation similar to what we saw in the pastel. So again, here the brick using this texture, no, very similar to one of the 60s of Moragas, of the understanding of the potential of giving a more human scale when you change the way you put the brick. Next. And here we have the atrium, the social atrium. Here's the entry of the air for the summer in the first floor, and this is the fourth floor where the air goes down. Here's all the atrium and all this materiality of the brick that we choose it because of the inertia. So all the energy that this atrium is capturing, we can keep it with this inertia. So in this case, we are using these massive bricks, and also the way we use it to do the lattices to give some privacy to the houses. So here we can do the ventilation, the double ventilation, the cross ventilation of the houses, but at the same time we gain some privacy through its material. Next. So again, every time you have the opportunity, this intermediate space will become part of the common spaces, the social spaces. Again, also here we use to change we use curved lines in order to get more contrast, and we understand that the patio is different than the part of the concrete. Here we see that this is the atrium, and this is in this case like to avoid having maintenance. In this case, we place the solar protection in the outside, but we place it in a way that in winter, we calculated the angle, and in winter we can we enter the most amount of energy, and in summer it's put it in a place that you don't need. So with that movement, we are able, just understanding which are different angles that we have, how to adapt so the building captures more in winter and protects more in summer. Next. Here, this double height, this social scale. Here we have the fifth floor, we have the entry to the terrace, the common terrace, the social spaces present. This is the outer space of the terrace present. So that also has some representatives in the facade with this changing of the structure. That we understand that something's happening also. Outside, in the inside, we use the lattices, the solar protections that allow the air to pass. And here, well, all the way we place on the bricks, very similar way of building as the one we developing on Pastor Passan. Again, here we have some machines for the changing rooms, and this again, the brick is able, the ceramic can allow us to do some ventilation and some aesthetics. This case, this facade here, this is the space similar to the patio, that allows us not to put another stair. And then we are using a topology where the bathroom is always at the same place. The kitchen is in the parking wall, so normally here, or sometimes here. And then we are able to move the bedrooms in order that allow us to give this movement to the facade. And this movement has a lot of relation with the typology and allow us not to understand this only as a repetition of equal plans, so understand the facade as a whole, and then we change the scale of it. And here we see the changing rooms, the ventilation, the parking, and the changing rooms. So with the corridor, the ventilation, the changing rooms, we have a lattice in the facade. This lattice allow us to do all the ventilation. So this is the relation between the city person, and here we have this parking. Again, very similar situation as the one in Pastor Plaza. And here, this is the first building we did with brick. It was a competition in 2010, and it was built in Melilla. And also the first time we tried to work with this idea of the equal room system. So it was very fast. We are in the north of Africa. And in this case, we are using this patio more as shadow place, you know. So we is the situation in Melilla. This limit, this is Rivera, but you know it's very close to a place that it was changing. What used to be a military place, okay, but we decided this is just a situation, so allowing the wind to go through. So all the volumetrics is that these four pieces that are not touching, and all the entrances are through these gaps, but also these gaps are all the time allowing the air to pass through. And in this case, the double circulation, we will use lattices to give privacy and allow, again, this double circulation. Here we can understand this equal room system that we were trying to do here. Next. Well, here, this is the ground floor, the entrance of the ground floor, this gap where the air is going through, and this situation of equal rooms that we were not, when we did Cornellán, maybe we understood better what we wanted, but we have some intuitions. Next. Here's this ground floor into this patio, this shadow space. Next. This is the parking, the entrance of the parking, again, with natural ventilation, using the lattices to do this natural ventilation. Next. And you know, all the enclosure of here, we're using this idea of the shadow because we are in this north of Africa, that where the sun is getting very vertical, and we wanted to have very fresh space, and this is the relation of the cross ventilation through the houses with the privacy that gives you the lattice. Next. So all these gaps, this movement of the earth, but for us, this intermediate space, in this case, the intermediate space, the social space, will be this artist party, this bracket. Well, another way to understand the drawing of the common spaces. Next. This is the typology. No? With this idea of the equal rooms, in this case, we have a system that was able to do 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, or 3 bedroom, so we can combine them, you know, and twist them to the next. And you know, when here is the space of 2 bedrooms is the same of 3 of them of 1 bedroom. Next, and that's why when we do the facade, we are able to change the windows, because here we have 2 dwellings of 2 bedrooms, and here we have 3 of 1 bedroom. Next. In this case, we try to unify the openings. So this is the terrace, this is the bedroom, unifying the way we understand this idea of the openings. And in this case, you know, the bricks, we hold them with these metal elements. That this is something that we developed better in Cornellán, in Bon Pastor, and now we are doing new building next here in Maslow, that we are just finishing. That in this case we are using it on very low loading facade. So it's not structural, but it's self-loading facade. So it's a new way we're using the bricks to avoid having thermal breaches. This case we are in Maslow. This is a place, the importance of the Maresme is this relation between the sea and the mountain, that, you know, every time that it rains, we have the dry rivers that become this situation. So this gives shapes to all this area, and this is a competition that I think we won because we took one of these dry rivers and we give them continuity, the shape, the solar used to have this L shape, but instead of building everything, we decided to build the gap and allow this street to go through and make some urban space into the through the building. Next. So we have this carré real that we are giving some continuity, generating a flat square that instead of entering to each one of the cores directly from the street, we decided to enter from the square. So the square, even though it will form part of a public space, it will be part of these social spaces that are very important for us. So everyone of the community can meet into this place, and then we have some continuity to the city. And also in this case, we had the possibility of decide how the urban space was going to be. So we tried to use the renaturalization, the vegetation, to give some privacy to the ground floor drawings. Next. So this is this opening. Okay. Next. And here's this go through this space. This is something that we give to the city. You know, with other project, this would be totally private. So when we convinced them to give this to the city, so now everybody can pass through our building. And you know, this square is a public space, but also is the space of meeting of all these communities. Next. Now we are just finishing the construction. So here, this idea of using vegetation to give some distance to the ground floor. Next is the much of the competition. Next. This is now using brick in different textures. Next. And here, this again, talking back to this idea of the parking, no, how to rethink the parking. In this case, we have 40 units, so we needed to do 2 levels of ground floor, but we managed how to solve it with natural ventilation. So this is a very big opening just to solve this natural ventilation. Next. So in order to convince them that it was working, we had to do some simulations, so understanding that, will be how all will be there that will be in here. So we make this big hall where we have the ramp, and then we put strategically openings. Next, we understand here some openings, another one's through here, another one's here, down here. Next, just in order to generate this situation, we have these big openings where we can also put a tree into the park. Next. So this is the render. Next. This is now we just have to put the tree here. So just with this idea of the resilience of these spaces, just to understand that in the future we can use them in another way. Next. So this is the second plan of the second level of the parking. Next. And you know, you always have like these points of light, of movement of it. Next. Okay, going back to these upper levels. Next. The ground floor, this idea of putting all the entrances through the square, this is the privacy that we will have through this vegetation, you know, pattern. And this strategy that all the dwellings will have this cross ventilation. This is 4 units, it's one with a corner. In this case, 3 units is one of the cores, 6 in total. These are crossing ones, and these are the ones that are using the corner situation. Next, this is a typical floor plan. A very similar situation as the one of the tower, where we can move the situation of the bedrooms, you know, or we keep all the time the bathrooms and the kitchen at the same place, but we are using the bedroom in order to do the composition of the facade. Next. And when we go closer, we can understand this is the the crossing situation. This is the course of 3 units per plan. So we enter from a room, and we have this situation. We have the day zone, the living room, the dining room, the kitchen. Again, living room, this is moving depending of how we place the living room, and this is the crossing ones. And in this case, we did this situation, this strategy of making the walls larger, standing more like a mere situation, like a plane rather than like a box. So this is the box where we enter to the houses, the acoustic ceiling. And here, this idea of the walls that this is the crossing one. Next. Situation. Now again, we have this glass curtain, so this becomes a winter garden when we close it. Next. And sometimes we place one of these walls made of brick, so give some inertia. So that's why here we place also the radiator, because you can keep all the inertia into this area. So how to, and also we left the slab just painted with the foam block. Next. And also sometimes we with this idea of the non-interchanging place that we use it to give some light to the bathrooms. Next. So this is from the interior of the bathroom, the natural light, and this idea of the non-interchanging place. Well, sometimes the logic is so many percent. Next. And well, this is this winter garden. We use the lattice to do the protection for in the laundry, and here we have the solar protections, the summer situation, and the winter situation, the glass curtain. Next. So all the details with the timber next. And this is here, I don't know if it sees it well, but here is the glass curtain, is the summer situation. Next. And using these lattice, here we see the curtain, the glass curtain. And this idea also gives some shadow to the facade, just by allowing some of these bricks getting into the two faces. Next. And we are using very thin facade. So in order to put the solar protection, the strategy is to put the window inside. So it's folded inside the facade. So then we get some thickness, but we can send more stone. Also allow us, when you see the windows, you don't see much of the framing. And this is this idea of giving some shadow with the lattices, not only deepness, also shadow. With the stairs to the other side. Next. In this case, we're using this massive brick that we can cut. So we cut it in the different angles, so we are able to construct these geometries. Next. And we'll go back. And the dintel, we use the dintel to do the dintel only with these bricks, with no metal elements. Next. So this is some corner situations of the terraces. This is a big terrace, it's mainly like another room. Next. And this is what I was telling you. All the facade is burying itself into the foundings. So we only hold it not to fall down, not for the wind, but it has self-standing. Next. This, for us, this importance of giving this unity with this basement to all the building. Next. So here, just to do the stairs, we use this. This is the brick location in order to do this pyramid of bricks. Next. all the drawings with all the place with the mock-up of how to build it next. And finally, this element that holds all together and gives you this urban place to the next. So just to finish, I'd like to finish with this sentence: always never different, but never always the same. So we repeat many of the solutions from one project to the next, but every project has a new step, and it's important just to get to the. Thank you very much.
So after 10 weeks working, designing with these kind of systems, we see that the point where we can arrive, well, here, of course, he's a professional, we're students, okay, but, and even the way to represent it, the way to do interesting architecture without limitation because of the material, but just the opposite. So take advantage. And in terms of aesthetic, in terms of how the building works to achieve sustainability, he never uses the same brick. He studies the kind of brick he wants for each specific. He is looking for inners. He's looking for capacity of take humidity from the air. He's looking for design to produce shadow, to protect from views, to create different textures, to design a facade, not only a facade, but even the composition of he thinks about how it's going to be sustained, the facade, how I'm going to perceive the aesthetic. That's why I don't know if you have seen a lot of images with the floor plan, elevation, and section with a technical detail to keep the aesthetic resource that they are looking for. Okay, and I think it's something that we have to learn in this course in the third year, because to pass the fourth year and the final year, we have to be like often to use this strategy. I don't know if you are interested in asking something to our guest speaker. I am, so I can break the. A question that is just technique is the program that what is the program that you use to do the modelization of the behavior of the building in terms of energy and ventilation?
Yeah, Sociedad Orgánica is the consultants we use to do this, and they use energy.
And yeah, it's just curiosity because for me. And yeah, the first one, I have understood that it's a building without a heating system. Nothing. So
we only heat water for
hot water
for
the shadow, the shower, and yeah. And wow, it's amazing. Is it your first experience in a building like this one?
Yeah, but now
you're thinking about doing it more. And it has remembered me the conference of Foros. Do you remember? So it's not that we invited a German office, 2226 is called, the office. And they are experiencing this in Germany. And there were a debate in the conference if it was possible to be implemented in our climate. He was interested in applying this kind of technology. Well, technology, maybe the opposite, to design buildings here. And it's even easier in Spain than in Germany, he said. Other architects were denying this affirmation. They say, no, it's harder here But the reality is that Ibiza is not so far from Barcelona.
It's much easier in the plan. We always say this because you have to go step by step, like being able to build something that works. And then the clients they take many risks when they do building. So it's good that they can go visit it, and then it's easier to go on the next step. So we don't have to be in a hurry, but we don't have to stop.
And how do you convince your client to do such radical solutions? Because maybe they are not typical in the market, and then the developer thinks, no, I've never seen something like this. I'm not gonna take the risk.
Well, they think that when you do simulations, it helps a lot because they get closer. They can understand that it's not only some intuitions, that there are some numbers and things. This idea of modeling the buildings, it helps us a lot to convince them. But we have just finished a building in Barcelona with prefabricated with a very big atrium that doesn't need, but the client they wanted to put it. So we just put it. We just understand that maybe when they analyze that they are not using it, the next one they will not do. So we understand that we cannot change everything, but we have to make the possible to make the change possible. So we don't need. It's not that we need to do everything in all the projects. We just explain that you can do this with those systems, and then. So we just try to push them a bit, and we know that they try to do their best, and but we explain it very well. We do all the diagrams, and we can do every project. We try to do with the systems, and not all of them we can do.
And finally, at least for me, you're not Catalan. I think so. You were born in
Madrid.
In Madrid,
but
you have become Catalan, of course, because you have spent a lot of years here. But your background, you started working with Moneo. I can perceive in some of the designs, still this classical solution you have said to increase the height of the last level of the building to close. It's a classical solution. Maybe you have learned in this background, but at the end, you looked very interested in this Boigas work, and I was thinking, thinking about this exhibition in which I think you were exposed to los no realistas. So you have became a new realist, but realista that introduce another layer of interest, because even though you, Peris, have become new realistas, you are the nuevos realistas that introduce this knowledge of the classic architecture. Even in the last project you have shown, the work with the brick is quite Bonian as well.
Yeah, of course. No, we believe in composition. This is something that we cannot today. Maybe it's not polite to say this, but we do believe in composition. We understand that the world is better with composition. So we work with all the technologies in order to give us the flexibility to do the composition of the facade. It's not only like this straight. So we understand that we have to follow the aesthetics of the construction. So this is why every time where there has been some crisis, like maybe happened in the 60s or the new realism of the Italians after the Second World War, and this every time the brutalism of the Smithsons, that they were talking about these immediate decisions of understanding that maybe the way we construct is the aesthetics we have to take. We believe that this is part of the key of the way we have to do things now, but we don't think that we don't have to come to do composition. So we spend many time doing the composition of facade, understanding that there are some aesthetic decisions like that. Then but it's not only moving the facade. To move the facade, we change the topology.
And you combine this composition with technical solutions, and then they appear this aggregation of openings in this kind of terraces that can become winter terrace.
Intermediate spaces. We think, we mainly work in housing, and when you use intermediate spaces to get deepness into the facade, and this is like a very key level, some changes. But for us, we're interested because we are able to do a deepness, but then the other plan is not the same.
Ryan?
So on with the render lips, are they brittle at all, or like is it like if you bump into them, can they crumble, or like is it sun protected? Do they have any finish on it?
No, okay. We do it with a machine that there's a compression of 10 tones, so it's not a hand compression. And then we let them dry for 1 month. And then you have this stability, so if you touch them, you don't take out the But also there is like some dust that you have, so we apply silicate, potassium silicate, in order to make a stabilization so the dust is not falling. But it is important for us to leave it exposed so you can take advantage of this hygroscopicity of the material. So if you render it, then you lose this capacity of interchanging or absorbing the excess of humidity.
More questions? Luca?
That's true. How do you manage to keep the continuity of the conversation? We have so many different pieces.
Well, but this is because we use like some system of working, so we understand that it's following the rules, because many of the time we take to finish a project is understanding which are the proper rules for the project. But once you have them, you understand which are the rules of each one of the pieces, you just have to follow the rules. So there's always a point in a project that you are not the one that is taking decisions, it's the coherence of the project, the one that takes the decision. So sometimes you want to do something, but you cannot do it because the coherence of the rules that you have already done in the project, they take you to another place. So I always say to my alumni, to my students, that you are not God, you are working as an architect. It's not that anything you want, you can do. You just have to understand. It's like having a son. So you, in some way, at the beginning, you can try to do things, but there's some moment where the project has its own life, and you have to understand.
Question. There's a follow-up to the question. I completely absorbing well work. I'm thinking you are completely expertising in particular for me in combining, organizing so well this kind of housing, because I think that combines doesn't lose any square meter in designing the interior of this housing, and for fantastic for this variability. But I think experiencing this expertise in your technical decisions really determine to you the environment, is the social spaces, do some comparison of the space. They like to work in exteriors, spaces or in strong floors and plastics and this kind of social help.
Yeah, no, it's, you know, the project is very limited,
Yes.
so just have to understand that the money you spend some place, you cannot spend it in the other. So we understand. So for us, sorry, it is important to have these social spaces. So we always like keep part of the budget of the.
Yes, it's a combined social spaces with housing permits.
Okay, I think we have to close the conference because there are people online and we are about to lose the battery. So thank you very much, José Manuel. And